What up, guys? This is David Holder back with the Raised Hunting Podcast. I'm joined today by Warren and Easton, and I'm going to thoroughly apologize for what is about to take place today because I can foresee this. There is an attitude by Ding Dong sitting in the middle there, and then
I'm just trying to keep it entertaining.
Yeah, so
you're welcome.
If we have to beep something or we have to cut away, it's usually because Warren caused us to. So I'm just saying.
That is bull. It is equal.
It is not equal. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen.
It's at least 40-40.
That's untrue. He has more than 40%.
I just said 40-40-20.
Yeah, I'm
I'd
saying
say
he has
20.
more than that.
No, I do not.
I've only had one bad comment.
But it was like over the top. You freaking called a president.
Yeah, that was at least 3 podcast points worth of them.
I just called him short. All right.
Anyhow, it's just not right. So before we get started, just one reminder, man.
Said they were left speechless. And that's bad.
Go to the Raised Hunting website. Check out the Raised Canine, the Raised Nocks, the Raised Scents. I know it's not time of that year, time of season for all that. It is for the canines, though. And the apparel. There's all kinds of stuff. There's also 2 books on there if you guys are interested in reading about the Raised Hunting debacles and things like that. They're pretty good read. All right. Other than that, debacle.
Oh.
Not with a T. It sounds like I think
I know. I was just
we
going
had
to
a
see
big
if any of our OG podcast guys would come back into a comment.
Del Taco.
Del Taco.
It's a restaurant.
All right, Warren, you got
Waylon's going to be all over it.
He's a Taco Bell.
Is it Taco Bell?
Yes.
That's anything Mexican, isn't it?
It is, but Taco Bell was his place. I don't know if he still goes there.
Okay.
Do you have reviews?
Oh, yes. Only a few. Because it hasn't been that long since we did the last one. Oh, it's gonna take
awkward silence. We don't want awkward silence during the podcast when people are listening, driving down the road. Hey, pay attention.
Shout out.
Grab a hold of the wheel. Pay attention to where you're going.
To Jeremy Rupsick, Back Mountain Outdoors, Eric Robards, and William Ayers, SP4TT. It's only been 2 days since we released that podcast, so hasn't been a lot of time.
Though.
Yep. Appreciate those guys, as always.
Okay, well. Yeah, well, you guys keep sending the stories in because we were starting to catch up, and now I'm not being able to catch up, and I've got some good ones.
Hold on.
So
I have a personal one that...
Yeah, but you're not allowed to read it.
No, I'm not reading anything. Hold on. Just hang on 1 second. Jordan Koffa. Thank you, brother. He stopped Easton and I as we were walking through the ATA show to compliment the podcast, and he then shot me because he's the dude that's going on the Oryx hunt.
Oh, nice.
And he was like, I was looking for an Oryx hunt, and I knew I heard it, and then you guys were talking about it.
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah, he was a nice guy.
Yeah, good dude. So good luck on your hunt, bud.
Anyways, keep sending your stories in because I have a feeling that going through the off season, we're going to try to come up with some more podcast topics that are intriguing, but the stories will be very good and something to get us through. Also, don't forget, I've had some of you send in your questions for the biologist. I'm compiling a list. So if you have questions for a deer biologist, this one is from Iowa, took part in testing that deer for EHD. So we're going to have him on. I've got some questions already in relation to some deer management stuff. But if you have anything you'd ever want to ask a deer biologist, send it to contact@raisedhunting.com and send your stories to contact@raisedhunting.com. That was contact@raisedhunting.com. And also add your images. Today's is from our main squeeze, another one, Garrett Pape. Thank you, Raised Scents. A buck I never had on trail camera made a mistake today for me. He came in checking a rub post that I had on a thick black pine. Every week I would freshen it up. Once November hit, I started putting LHD on it along with Buck Junkie. I had been chasing a deer I have history with from last year all season long. This guy came out of a creek bottom and started walking towards me, and he went right to the scrape at 25 yards. Needless to say, that was his mistake. I drew back, let the arrow fly with the raised knock lit, watched the arrow hit him, and he knew right away he was a dead deer running. Awesome 9-point with some character, broken points, and battle wounds. Thank you, Easton, for your guidance and recommendations on the products. 2 years in a row, I've been able to capitalize on really good, mature deer, and it's all due to your products. Plus, I listen to your podcast and have also helped with strategy and tactics. Keep up the good work, guys, and thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Congrats, Garrett.
I have a pretty funny story about Garrett.
Well, I hope Garrett is listening today.
And he's going to
get
very mad, too.
Well, he's going to hear, like, the horror stories. He says he's learning a lot, but today you're going to learn the stuff you don't want to hear have happen to you or happen. Because as I've been thinking about this, I remember, like bad.
So I don't remember what I was having to do. I was having to pick Mom up from the airport. Like this is months ago.
This year you're talking about recently?
2024 is last year. It's a long time ago. I cannot remember why I was picking her up. But anyways, Garrett messaged us about something. It was something to do with the Nocks. And so I was driving, so I said, just give me a call, gave him the number, whatever he calls. And he's talking. I've got my truck speaker on. And so we get to talking. We figure out whatever it was about the Nocks. And then he starts telling me about something about the podcast. Well, at this point, I now pull up, and I'm at the airport, and he's now talking about rub trees and everything. And I see Mom come out of the thing. And I'm trying not to be a jerk because I'm like, I needed, like, my mom's about to get in the truck here. I need to go, but at the same time, I'm trying to have a conversation. So I was waiting for one gap in the sentence is all. Like, hey, man, hold on. Let me call you later because I was just a little nervous about where I was going to go. And he starts saying, man, I've just been trying to find those black pines, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm totally zoned out because I'm trying to just, like, ignore him and, like, distract him and have Mom get in the truck. So she opens the door just to hear him start saying, yeah, you know, the big girthy ones. big girthy ones. And finally I said, Garrett, hold on. I am at the airport trying to pick up my mother. Okay. He goes, no way, am I on speaker? I say, yeah, you're on my truck. He's like, Mrs. Holder, I am so sorry. I will talk to you later, Easton. My bad. Goodbye. And hung up. And Mom's like, what were you talking about?
Mom knew. She's like, if one of my boys was going to be gay, it was going to be Easton.
Yeah, of course. Good Lord. So thanks, Garrett.
Busted. She's like, I love you anyways.
My mom thinks I'm gay because of Garrett Pape.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's my fun story about Garrett. Congrats on your buck, man.
Yes, sir.
Glad you could get your big black pine in there.
You just ruined
40%. All
right.
right.
A story.
Did we tell people what we're talking about?
No, not yet. All right. So today, what we're going to talk about is the worst situations we have found ourselves in, and we discussed this and how to come up with these. And I've hunted longer than you guys, so I probably have more for sure. But I'm sure you guys have some too. But I have a couple.
Worst situations or worst hunts?
Worst hunts. Well,
That's a big difference.
Well,
Or worst experiences hunting.
Yeah, and I think there's different facets, is why I say it. Like, meaning whether it's the entire hunt, like the hunt itself, the weather, whether it's
I have one. I have like 3 or 4.
Packing out.
Yeah, I have a few too, but I got one right at the top of my mind.
One of you guys go first.
Out.
Huh?
What a wimp.
Who wants to go first?
I can start with mine. It's mine and yours, and it's probably going to steal one of yours.
I'll go first. Mine was his antelope this year.
Oh, dude.
Was that going to be it?
No, I didn't want to. I wasn't really thinking about that. That one was emotionally the worst one I've ever gone through in general, as a whole, by far.
Yeah, that one was pretty terrible. Just and it wasn't anything really that we did. Well, it wasn't anything we did. It was just the fact that seeing that poor goat in that position and how long it had been there was just terrible. And it was one of those where, like, sure, we've all seen stuff in nature that we don't that's brutal, but for whatever reason, I don't know what it was on that one, that it was so much.
Probably because I didn't
just
handle
felt
it at all.
No, because it was.
But I think you're going to have to explain to someone what you're talking about now.
Yeah, well, I guess I know a lot of folks have listened to the podcast before, but this year, Easton and I, we were all in Wyoming antelope hunting, and essentially we were driving around spotting and stalking, and we'd gone to a couple places trying to find some goats that were in a somewhat stalkable position. And I looked up on the horizon, like a good mile away, through my binos and said, oh, there's a goat caught in the fence up there. And then it wasn't, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds later or something like that. And then I saw it was kicking. And I was like, holy crap, it's alive.
Yeah, because when you guys first saw it, you thought it was just a dead goat that had been, it already just passed away hanging in the fence.
Yes. And so then I knew the property well enough that I was pretty sure that the road went right by where he was. So we drove up there as fast as we could, hoping to save the antelope, not kill it. And he was stuck in the fence, and one of the barbs, if I remember right, one of the barbs, like the middle barb had gone over top of the top barb, I think.
No, he was just flat out hung up on his,
just
he was
the
on
barbs.
the top.
Yeah,
he was
that's
on
right.
the top rung. He tried to jump it. He didn't go under it, and his back legs did not make it.
Yeah, and it like ripped up his whole chest and like ripped him wide open, and then his legs were basically caught by the barbs. And so Craig was talking about trying to throw like a blanket over his head. And I just was like, I could just see there wasn't that much juice in him. And I was like, I don't think we need to. So I just walked behind him on the fence, and I had to lift him up in order to be able to get him off of the fence. And so I did. I lifted him up by his back legs and then just set him over. And he bellowed at that because obviously it hurt. And then when he just started walking, I mean, it was very clear that he was not going to live. I mean, like, super evident. And like his neck area, and he was super, super skinny, and his neck area had been ripped open. We're assuming by the fence, but that was where it got worse kind of for our minds, because then what we're looking at, we're like, well, if that was from this fence, then he had to have been in this fence for
days.
Yeah, in order for that wound to heal that way. So, and then Easton did the right thing, the ethical thing, and shot him and put him out of his misery, because he was definitely not going to live. He was going to die a slow, painful death. And I think Easton and I both we felt really bad for that antelope. You know, it's just the sympathy side of hunters. And I guess when I think of the worst experiences, that one, I don't know if it's because it's the freshest. I don't think so. But that one was just the very first one that came to my mind, because I was like, that was rough.
Freaking that one! I don't know if I'll ever beat that. I hope I don't, because that was not fun at all. And I was not shooting properly either.
Well, it was also 40 mile an hour winds, and so with 40 mile an hour cross, I mean, that tells you how messed up the poor goat was. Is we just walked up to him as he's trying to walk away and shot him.
Yeah, that was messed up.
That was one of mine.
Yeah, mine was not nearly that bad. It was just an absolute poor experience in general, but it was with you as well.
Where was that?
That was a place called Pisgah, Iowa.
Oh, yeah, turkey hunting.
I don't even remember it.
That's because there's nothing to remember. There's about 3 things to freaking remember. We thought we were going to have this grand old time.
Oh, wait.
We were going to drive up there.
In western Iowa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Told there's lots of turkeys there. There's a fun place to hunt them. We were going to go camp in our tents, which we did. And we were going to chase a bunch of turkeys around. And we spent about 3 days in a tent in Iowa.
Broke a CV axle.
Yep, broke a CV axle on a truck. Ended up writing an IOU to the mechanic in town.
Who was a good mechanic, because he managed to fix it in like 2 hours and was just like, here, limp it in here. And he's like, I can fix it. And I was
legitimate. This was like, what, 2016 or 15, somewhere in there?
Yeah.
And we legitimately wrote a real IOU. So if you don't know what an IOU is, you should. You probably wouldn't. I don't know why you would. That's like a thing of the past. No, there's a lot of people that don't know what it is. Me and Hannah just got on this topic the other day.
It says IOU.
And I don't expect her not to.
I was going to say, well, it's Hannah.
Yeah, so anyways. Oh, poor girl.
She's blonde.
Yeah, she is.
Anyways,
nature. That was kind of cool, though, because
that's not
like
going to help him with his mother.
It's a long time ago. So, like, the people would write IOUs. So we did that. We saw, was it 3 toms?
On the very last day.
And they went running away.
Yeah.
They
got close.
Came in like 60 yards and then went up a freaking cliff.
And it was a one road. Like, it was the only place for them, so they clearly had been pressured.
Yeah, it was the worst turkey hunt I have, because we went 3 days without a gobble in the mornings, nothing. You could not find them in the evenings, couldn't find them during the day, no birds. Yeah, so we basically went on a little camping trip. That was a grand all time. Yeah, no.
I don't think
so I don't recommend going to Pisgah, Iowa if you want to shoot a turkey. Might be different now, but
I wasn't on that trip. I was in Nebraska shooting turkeys. They were everywhere.
Yeah, see, that's how Dad does it. Is he garholes his kids?
Yeah,
and then he and then his wife go to the good spots.
Yeah, no kidding.
Intentionally.
That's even worse.
I know. At least I admit it.
Okay.
I guess this one, I think everyone can relate to this one, but probably the worst one was, and it's too long to tell on this podcast, so we'll have to do a whole deal on it one day. But when I spent 4 days with two older gentlemen that were 68 and 74, I think it was, in the Beartooth Mountains of Montana on horses, and I don't ride horses, and everything that could go wrong, including I thought we killed one of them twice.
The human, not the elk.
Yeah, no. We should have killed an elk. We should have killed an elk though too. I actually saw someone who had taped a limb of a bow with tape, with clear masking tape to fix it.
Oh my gosh!
I saw someone shoot a bent aluminum shaft.
Wait, they duct taped the limb?
No, it wasn't even duct tape. It was clear tape. Oh, yeah.
How split are we talking?
Like enough I could see it from me to Easton.
And it held?
I guess.
Did you ever watch him shoot?
No. not at all. And even the day when I
guarantee you that thing flew like Tim's arrow.
Well, he missed the bull. He did get a shot at the bull.
That's probably because it takes left turns. He's the only guy that could kill a bull behind a tree.
Yeah. Well, so anyhow, that's a long story. I mean, it's a unbelievable story. But that one would be probably my worst. But second,
give him the gist though of why it was so bad.
What happened was two gentlemen that lived in my neighborhood invited themselves to come hunt with me, and what I mean by that is they saw that I was going elk hunting, and I was talking to him, and this guy at the time, I'm in my 30s, and I worked for Primos Hunting Calls. I got all this stuff set up. I'm going to call for Primos, and this guy comes by walking his dog. I should have known something was up because he had a little Pomeranian, and if you own a Pomeranian,
especially in Great Falls,
yeah, you're just not much of a hunter. I mean, sorry if you got one of those little like rat-looking kind of things that you call a dog.
Just call an ankle
Marty's
biter.
Gonna be pissed when he hears this.
And I'm gonna be with Marty. So Trip, I'm sorry, man. Trip is the dog. So anyhow, this guy comes walking by.
His little bark.
So this guy comes walking by. He sees me with all this stuff. He starts talking to me about, oh, you going hunting? And I told him what I was doing. I wasn't the hunter. But when I got back, if I got back in time, I was going to run up to the Beartooth and go hunting. And he says, oh, me and my buddy usually hunt there, and we haven't done it in years. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. He says, I'll tell you what, if you get back in time, we'll meet you up there. And I'm like, sure. I mean, we're just having a conversation. That was kind of it. There was no formal, I'll meet you at this time or whatever. Well, I go on the trip with Primos. They kill 2 elk early. I storm my way back home. I have totally forgotten about this conversation, so I'm throwing everything in the truck. Here comes my neighbor walking up, happens to walk up, sees me getting ready. He's like, they must have killed elk. I said, yep. And he said, okay, what are you doing? I said, well, my boys get out of school today, so I'm grabbing them, and they're going to come up, and they're going to be there for the weekend, and then I'm going to start hunting after that.
Camping.
Just camping.
Yep.
Yeah. And he said, okay, well, we'll be there Sunday afternoon. And I was like, oh, okay. And part of me was kind of excited because they were talking about bringing horses. And this is a big 64,000 acre section of ground. And I've walked all of it, but I knew there was lots of places I hadn't been. And they acted, they're 70s. So they acted like they knew this place really well. And they were going to take me places I'd never been. And I'm like, well, okay, this could turn out to be pretty cool. But I also know these guys and back then I was like hardcore into bow hunting for elk. And so I knew that there would be some issues. Karen reminded me. She said, just put it in God's hands and it'll all work out.
Good job, Mom.
All right. So we went up. You guys were there. Easton was shooting his BB gun. We had a lot of fun on the weekend and everything. And Sunday rolls around. I'm thinking, they ain't showing up. It was just a conversation. Here comes this rattling old truck down the road. And here comes a trailer, and out walks 3 horses that I don't know horses, and I could look at you and tell you these horses are not meant to go into the mountains at all. The first thing they tell me is they're going to let me lead. And I was like, guys, I don't know how to ride a horse. I mean, I know how to get on one, but other than that, I have no clue what's going on. And he says, oh, you'll be fine. You're going to ride Blinky. And I was like, Blinky? Why are you calling Blinky? Well, the horse turns his head, and I realize why. He's only got one eye. So anyhow, long story short, we spend 2 hours trying to get out of camp. We can't get the horses to cross the creek. I don't know how to make a horse go, but we walk up to the creek, all three of them, and they're like, nope, ain't doing that. So we are sitting there.
Garrett?
No, I finally got off the horse and walked. I walked through the water. He saw me walk through the water and followed me, and then the other two followed him, and that's how we got across. So then I got back on the horse, and we start riding up a trail. This trail I've ridden and walked. Warren, that was where we kind of started with you elk hunting. And it's like 6 miles in there. And so the whole concept was to get to the back where we always go to this big meadow, and these elk come out there because they come off of private ground. Walking wise, it's like an hour and 45 minutes in, hour and 30 minutes, something like that. So I'm thinking on a horse, we're 45 minutes, right? Half, roughly an hour maybe. Hour 35, hour 40 minutes, we're not even halfway. So I'll get to this part, and that'll be as far as we're going. We get to this point.
Hold on. Are you freaking sprinting to get there in an hour and a half in 6 miles walking?
He's been riding his bike.
Ride my bike.
Okay, so he says walking. I'm sitting here thinking, doing the math on that. Like, good Lord, you would literally be running to get there in time.
If you're
going 2 miles an hour, when I'm shed hunting, I'm average like 2 miles an hour, so I'm walking like 3.
The average person walks about 4 miles an hour. That's an hour for 4 miles.
That is not true. Have you seen the U.S. population?
Well,
it's definitely 3.1 now.
But someone can walk 4 miles in an hour. This is a road, a gravel road that goes in there.
Yes, he was sprinting. And his great idea was, this is to be the best place possible to take a 13-year-old.
Yeah, to figure it out.
6.5 miles into the backcountry.
Wait a minute. You begged to go.
You probably did.
I'm sure
begged
I did.
to go. Please take me.
But don't you think you could have maybe like,
I tried
my kid, he's 13, he's probably kind of stupid, and he wants to go hunting with me. Maybe I should adjust it a little bit, and we'll go 2 miles or 3 miles.
I did exactly that. We left 4.5 hours early so that we had plenty of time, that we weren't rushing to get in there. We'll just walk the bikes if we need to. And that still wasn't enough for him.
Yeah.
Back in the day, wasn't it, for Warren?
I was also 13.
A little plump guy.
My bad.
I wasn't going there.
The only reason I can say that is because he's Jack now, and I'm the skinny one still. So
anyhow, we're an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes, and I realize we're not even halfway. This is not going well. And then they need to take a break. I'm like, okay, fine. So we all jump off the horses, and this is when I knew it was really going to be bad. We get off the horses. They're taking a break for 10, 15 minutes. Everyone gets a snack. Okay, guys, we need to go if we're going to get back there before it's dark. And so they're like, okay. So I put my pack on, jump on my horse, and I turn around, and these two guys are standing there on the ground, and they're trying to get on their horses, and the horses are doing the walk around, and they're chasing them around, and I'm like, this isn't working. They're not even getting close. One guy can't get his foot up into the stirrup there's no way he can get on there. So he's walking the horse down the road looking for a log to get on the horse. So I'm trying to figure out, how did they get on the horse? I didn't see them get on down at camp. Well, I later on figured out they got in the back of their truck and then stepped off the tailgate onto the horse.
Good Lord.
So now what they're needing me to do is I get off my horse, take my pack off, lay it on the ground, take their pack off of them, pick them up, put them over the horse, like on their belly, then lift their leg, put it on one side. Now they can sit up. Then once they sit up, I put my foot in their stirrup. I get their pack. I stand up in the stirrup, put their pack on their back, help them get situated so that the pack's their bow isn't hitting the horse, or it's going to freak out the horse, which I don't know any of this. I'm learning all this as we go because we did it. And so lo and behold, I get them on their horse, and then I get my stuff together and get back on my horse. And that's what we have to do every hour and 15 minutes, hour and 20 minutes. We make it to the end of the trail. And it's about an hour.
I'd be getting them on there one time. I'd slap that horse on the ass.
Let her rip.
I didn't need to.
That's
like Red Dead. Or tie him on there like Red Dead on the back.
We make it all the way to the back, and I can't believe, you know what?
Not dragging
you know what
put him on the horse part.
You know what the meadow looks like back there. You can see way down there. And we come up on these horses, and I look down there. We're like an hour before dark is all. And I can't believe it. There's a freaking bull standing there looking at us. And I'm like, holy crap. what are the chances of this? And so I'm asking them, how close can we get these horses to that bull? And they're like, oh, no, we've never tried it. And I'm like, well, I don't know whether we can just, because the bull can clearly see us, but he's not paying any attention. Now I'm realizing I think it's the horse. As long as we stay on the horses, I don't think he has any clue.
Doesn't care.
So we started riding right to him. And sure enough, finally went down a little dip, and he couldn't see us at all. And we were probably 400 yards from him. So I tell him, I said, let's.
I was thinking like 40 yards.
No, I mean, but 400 was like move up 200 yards, and we're going to set up, you know. And so anyhow, so we get up there, and we're doing all this, right? We got 3 horses. 2 older guys. That's when I found the bull that had the crack in it. That's when I saw that. And I was like, oh, this isn't good. However, the one older gentleman, and maybe I shouldn't use their names, tells the other older gentleman, you go with David. And I was like, perfect. I'll take him. We'll see if we can call him in an elk. How cool would this be? It's the first day. It isn't that bad yet. We just had a little incident. But the other gentleman that's going to stay back decides he is going to give me something that's guaranteed we're killing an elk. And he is insistent. And I'm like, he's going, just hang on. Let me get out of my pack. And you got to take this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, you got to take this. And I'm like, we're fine. Let us just go. And he's like, wait. And so now he has all 3 horses pulled down, but he's got his pulled right down over his shoulder. And he's digging in his pack. And out of his pack comes a Montana decoy.
Oh, Lord.
And the Montana decoy does not have a strap on it. So when it clears the pack.
Which, if you don't know what that is, they're like, they fold up, and so they're kind of like spring-loaded.
Yes, a two-dimensional, full-size cow elk all of a sudden goes, and when it does, this dude's horse goes, what the frick was that? And the horse's head hits him in the chest. And when it hits him in the chest, all I hear is, ooh! And 2 feet go past like this. He does a complete flip, and that thud, like, and if anyone that grew up as a kid that had a bike and you ever hit your head where it went, boom. And I'm like, we freaking killed him. I know we killed it. I mean, that gut feeling of this was made, like his freaking feet went over top of his head and he landed, and the other dude ain't even paying any attention. He's just like, and the horse is running now. And so I walk over thinking I'm going to have to do CPR. I go to flip him, and he goes, oh, I'm okay. I'm like, holy crap. He's like, I'm good. You guys go. You guys go. I'm like, Gary, you got to get the dang horse. He's like, I'll get it. You guys go. I'm like, are you seriously okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And so, like I said, this goes on forever, but because this is day 1 of 4 days, man. But we should have killed that bull. And we got up there, we made 1 or 2 calls, and the bull bugles at us, and I see him coming, and I got David out in front of me. I'm like, dude, just stay right there. Here comes the bull. I'm thinking he's going to get a shot. I'm watching. I'm a lot closer than what I do now because I didn't know back then. But in this situation, I just quit calling, and the bull was coming. And so where he is by this tree and brush, I can't quite see him. I'm off to the left, and I'm like, okay, the bull's 25, 30 yards. Why isn't he shooting? Why isn't he shooting? Next thing I know, the bull's coming like this, so I start knocking an arrow. I'm like, holy crap, I don't know why he didn't shoot, but I'm going to get a shot. 270, 280, like a bull. Yeah, a bull. And so I'm like knocked an arrow. He's going to walk by me at like 32, 33 yards. This is a slam dunk. I mean, he has no clue. Wind's blowing perfect for us. And all of a sudden I hear, where'd he go? I'm like, what? Oh, he's standing. I don't know how. He got up and couldn't find me, he said, because I was up like against a bush and he couldn't see me. I knew I couldn't see him, but that was the intention. And next thing I know, he must have walked all over, but now he's standing, and I look up, and then I look over, and the bull's looking at us now, having a conversation. And he's like, I don't know where he went.
And you couldn't shoot him?
I couldn't now because I'm looking at him, and then when I turn back, the bull's staring at us. And he's kind of quartered to me a little bit, so I'm going to just maybe possibly try to come to full draw. As soon as I did, he just wheeled and ran, which really sucked because when he ran, I realized there's 2 more bulls behind him. And so I was like, we're out. I mean, I'm like, what were you thinking? And he's like, man, I didn't see him. I didn't know where he went. I was like, it had only been like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, from
and how far away from it was he?
From the elk?
Yeah.
When he was standing here, he was 33, 34.
He couldn't see the elk?
He didn't see it. If he'd have stayed right where he was at, I don't know how he couldn't, because I could see the top of the bull's antlers coming down the creek. He was right in the bottom there walking along. And I would have thought he was higher than me. I would have thought he could have seen half the elk, but he didn't. So anyhow, in 4 days, get to the last day, we don't kill an elk. I tell them, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but we've spent all this time on these horses and we've taken hours. It would take us 3 hours to leave camp every single day. I tell them I'm going to take my bike and ride in and see if I can kill something so I can get back there in time before the elk leave. So I ride in there. This is 6 miles. I make the journey on my bike fast, right? I get back there and 200 and some elk are in this drainage. I mean, it's piled. This is public land. Like, you don't see this very often. Elk are freaking out. I'm trying to get my clothes on because I wear, like, different clothes to work when I'm riding my bike. And so I'm changing clothes, and these elk are walking by at 30 yards, but it's dark. So anyhow, I finally get all dressed and everything. And all I keep thinking, because when everything was said and done, the bigger bulls had started to move away, is these guys kept asking me, will you just shoot an elk? We haven't had any elk meat in 7 years or 8 years, he said. And so I was like, all right. And anything's legal there. So a spike had hung back. And I was like, okay, I could do this. I'll shoot a spike on the last day. Then I'll ride out, go get these guys. We'll come in with 3 horses, and it'll end what was a total debacle with packing out an elk together, and it'll be a cool deal. So sure enough, I call a couple times, bull walks in, I shoot him. He doesn't go 10 yards, tips over. I walk my pack and my bow, everything, lay it all on him. I'm like, this is a cool deal. I felt like this had really made, like, what could have been horrible way better. So I run and jump on my bike because I had told those guys I would be out before noon. Well, this is like 7:30. So I'm like getting my crap together. I'm going to be down at camp by 8:30 probably. So I take off riding. Well, I screw up because I'm in such a hurry that I hit a rut in the road and I go over my handlebars. And so I smash into the ground. I have binoculars on that hit the ground. I get up and I'm saying, okay, just calm down. There's no need to rush. So I take my time because it's all downhill going out. I get down there and nobody's there. My hunters have packed up their horses and left. And I have just left a full bull elk lane 6 miles away that I rode in and rode out.
When you easily probably could have put at least a quarter or...
At least. All right, I could have had and I would have brought all my gear out with me. You know, I brought nothing out because I was like, this is going to be a piece of cake. So now I got 6 miles in, 6 miles out, grab my game cart, grab all my packing stuff, go 6 miles back in, quarter an elk by myself, put it all on the game cart, put it on my back, 6 miles back out. It's like 8:30, 7:30, 8 o'clock or something in the evening by the time I finally make it back to my truck. This is like a marathon that I've done now, you know, and I didn't realize how bad it was until I stopped to call Mom next to the lake right there at Holter Lake. And as I'm pulling out, back then cell service was not very good, and I got like one spot, and I stepped out of my truck, or I tried to, and when I couldn't bend my legs. My legs were so stoved up from going in and out and all this that I could not bend my legs to get out of the truck. I had to just sit on the edge and hold the phone up where it would get reception, and told her, I said, you know, here's what's going on. She's like, oh, yeah, I kind of knew Gary stopped by. I'm like, he stopped by? Yeah, he stopped by the house to see if you'd come in yet. And I was like, well, I didn't know what to say. You know, and so anyhow, long story short, I still gave the guys a quarter of an elk and just we never hunted together again. But I don't think they wanted to go again because, these guys were whooped, you know. So
I think there is some lesson there though too, because that is a common theme. When I think of one of the other, there's lots, but when I think one of the other ones that really stuck out was a few years ago, elk hunting. We took 2 other guys because we had to offset. Everybody thinks we're super loaded, but we needed to help offset the cost of lease, right? So did we have any time before they got there? A day or something? Yeah, we had a day or two, I think, was all before they got there. And, yeah, we did because Crazy Crick or whatever we'd already been back there.
Okay.
And so these 2 guys get there, and they've got, you know,
brand new gear.
Their Under Armour Cam Hanes boots, and Dakin really messed them up because he started calling all their gear Kiwi instead of QU. So they thought like, dude, we're the coolest guys in the mountains, and Dakin within like 4 hours has it named. Oh, look at you and your Kiwi gear. And it was at that time I was still really, really driven to kill a decent bull.
Right.
I'd killed a couple elk, but now I was like ready, very similar to some of your whitetail stages right now. I just wanted to kill a decent bull. And so anyways, we'd gotten close a couple times, I think, and one of these places, one of these big basins, we'd found some elk in. So Dad tells him, the very first day, he tells me, we're not going to take him into Crazy Creek yet. We're going to give him a day
to acclimate.
Yeah, get acclimated and get adjusted. And so it isn't like 4 hours later, and where are we dropping into?
Crazy Creek.
Crazy Creek.
Well, there's bulls bugling, so you got to go there,
There was a pile of bulls bugling, but the one guy was in decent shape. He was fine.
He was ready to go, yeah.
The other guy was not. And so ended up trying to get out. Dad eventually got to the point where he's like, you guys just go, because he couldn't, and he's walking downhill. And Dad was carrying his pack and everything, and, we were at camp for an hour and a half, 2 hours before they showed up. And so anyways, it was, I can't remember if it was the next day or 2 days later, that we were back in Crazy Creek and had a nice bull up on this top of this peak, right? And like 270, 280. I'd have been stoked with him. Nice 6x6. And we get underneath him, and he had cows. He had several cows. And for whatever reason, Dad starts calling to him, and this freaking elk comes.
Just got up and left his cows, and here he comes.
Yeah, and Dad's just telling me, be patient and everything. We'll get these guys an elk, and they'll be out of the way, and you'll have a chance to kill a nice bull, whatever, And so I am running a camera, and he wants me to help this other guy. So it's me and this other dude, because he'd never elk hunted before or anything, and then Dakin and the other guy. And so we set up in a spot where it would be hard for the bull to get by. Even if he tried to circle around to Dad's calling or anything, we'd get a shot. And so as he's bugling, and as we're getting set up, he gets into the bottom, and he bugles, and I can't remember what he was doing. He was doing something, and I was like, for the essence of the story, we're just going to call him Bob. I was like, Bob, dude, the bull is right there. You need to get your act together. And I also told him, I said, you need to stand right here. And he couldn't stand on it because it was too elevated. He said, I can't stand on that. It was very similar to the roof that the Secret Service was not able to get on with the slope.
Yeah. Okay.
It was like this much slope. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, you have to stand right there, because it was the only lane.
Yeah.
Right? And then he was also standing behind the tree. I also told him, you have to stand in front of the tree. And he just doesn't do it, right? Just won't listen to me. And so, whatever. Well, bull bugles again, and here he comes, and still didn't see him. And so I'm like, Bob.
He's right here.
The thing that looks like the size of a cow that's at 60 yards and closing, and somehow the bull doesn't hear me or anything or catch him. Like, this bull is stupid. And anyways, walks right into the shooting lane. Bob gets to full draw, and guess what Bob can't do?
Draws bow.
No, he's at full draw. Can't shoot because he's behind a tree. Because he couldn't stand on the elevated surface. So then is what Bob decides to do, as the bull starts walking, is just shoot. So Bob shoots, and he hit him in the ass, didn't he?
I don't think he hit him on the first shot.
Was it? Did he miss?
He got multiple shots.
Yeah. So I think it was. I know. I think he hit him. He did hit him.
Maybe
in the
he
ass.
did. Hit him.
I thought he missed.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
I thought he missed. He hit him in the ass. Okay. Bull runs around, loops around in front of the other guy. And then, so I'm like looking at this, and I'm obviously irritated. I'm like, what the hell? And then I look over, and he's at full draw.
Your guy or the other guy?
My guy. And I was like, no. And he freaking shoots, and the bull's like 80 yards. We found the arrow. The arrow landed 18 yards from Dakin and
right in front of us.
Oh, my God.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, it was a bad deal.
And so Warren lost his cool and said, what the F are you doing? You need to pull your head out of your ass. Those guys are right there. Meanwhile, and I'm saying this like in a normal voice because I'm very, very pissed at this point that he just shot at two people.
Yeah.
Because he just completely lost his mind. And then that guy shoots the bull. while I'm like talking
the bull
this.
kept coming. Like when Warren's talking about him running around, he just ran around. I guess he thought he got stung by a bee or something, that this arrow hit him in the ass. It didn't phase him. I mean, we have video of him. He just keeps on walking, coming right into the call, and the other guy gets a shot and makes a good shot and kills him.
While you're freaking out on the guy?
While I'm freaking out on the guy. So, like, I chewed him, right? I chewed the guy. Totally chewed him. Because I told him all of this stuff, and I was like, sure, I get it. I'm younger than you and all this stuff, but everything I just – and then now now where it's dangerous, you know, and you're just being stupid. And so I'm, like, chewing the dude, and they shoot the bull. I didn't even know they shot the bull until I see them up there, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what are you guys – and they're like, oh, we got him. And I'm like,
go down.
What the frick? So then the bull runs on to private and dies, and these mother truckers get so freaking lucky that the dude is like, oh, I can give him a Can-Am to it, and we'll just throw it in the Can-Am and get it out of there. So then on their first elk hunt, where part of elk hunting is the suffering. Right,
and that pack out was going to be a suffering.
Yes, and so like it was going to make me at least feel a little bit better to see them go through some of the pain.
Yeah,
and then they get so lucky, and I'm like, what the frick? It just blew my mind. And so then I told him, I said, I'm done, because he's like, no, you need. And I said, nope. I said, it will not help that dude. I am not spending another minute of my time with somebody else that won't listen like that, and then does that thing. And then he decided it was too much for him anyways, and so then he just kind of walked around the bottom and stuff. I don't know what he did. And so then
never killed one.
Did he? No.
No, he didn't kill one.
No.
Oh, I would have been livid.
So, but it's.
Can you not hear you yelling in the camera? Of
okay,
Deacon?
you guys keep talking. I'm about to pee my pants.
Like while they shoot the bull, can you hear?
I tried to hold it. Background. I don't know if you could or not, but I mean, like you see when we have video of the other arrow coming in.
Oh my god!
Because the bull is standing there like looking back towards us,
yeah.
Which maybe that's what he was hearing. It was me yelling at the guy, and then then you see the bull like whoa, and he like runs a little bit, and then when we slowed it down later, you see the freaking arrow coming into frame and lands right next to. I mean, 18 yards, in my opinion, is way too close when it's
especially
at you.
Broadhead, everything else.
Yes. And
oh my goodness.
So, and then you know, it was one of those deals where later, you know, mom and dad are telling you need to apologize.
Oh,
and
boy,
then I said,
probably
nope,
did not go well.
I ain't doing it. And then dad actually started thinking, I was like, you know what? I agree. You don't need to apologize because we tried to be patient. So.
Well,
yeah.
I would have told you probably needed to apologize after all of it, except when he finally did shoot when they're over there. It doesn't matter how
that's
much
what set me over the edge
get.
Was that he was shooting like
that is
shooting at people, dude.
That's the definition of why so many people get injured hunting, like shotgun pushing and stuff, is either negligence or they get so worked up they can't control their freaking emotion and think about. For the pushing stuff, I think it's more negligence than it is anything. But holy cow, pay attention to where you're shooting. That is a weapon, whether it's a bow or a gun. I
guarantee you someone gets hit with an arrow and it's going to mess you up.
Oh, it's probably going to be worse than a gunshot, depending on what it is.
Yeah.
That would be awful.
But
that would be so painful.
I do feel as though that is one thing I think we've kind of learned at this point, that if you're going to take new people, you better be okay with sacrificing your own hunt.
Oh, yeah, you're dang right.
Especially on it. And
if you can find somebody...
Elk hunts are different.
Yeah, but
sure.
I'm also saying, like, I think everybody could probably understand, like, if you're taking somebody new, then you just need to be prepared that it's going to mess everything up, opposed to taking somebody who's on an equal level that can add value to the hunt.
Right. You take another guy and he can call too, he can pack too, then not the case.
Which elk hunting probably absolutely exploits it 10x. You know, because if somebody else can't call or they can't help pack or they can't do anything, then you're really, not only is it a nuisance, but now you're pulling double the weight.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe that's where I need to put in for.
Hold on.
Wherever that was.
I should call out.
Or I could do the Beartooth.
What the heck was his first name? Gosh dang it. Now I can't think of it. The fire marshal's kid, Swingley.
Spencer?
Was it Spencer? Yeah, Spencer Swingley. I think that. No, I think
that's
it.
I feel like I remember that name of Spencer Swingley.
Yeah, I meant need
Is
to
he going to want to be called out for this?
Oh, it's no big deal. It was just what you were talking about. It was talking about like his dad called me. So I'm big into elk hunting at the time, and the fire marshal asked me if his kid can come with me, and he's like 17 or 18. You know, I was like, sure. You know, so he goes with me to Missouri Breaks, and we get over there one day, and I think I've talked about this before on the podcast that it took me a few years to figure out, and I had not figured it out yet. I would find all these bulls in this one area in the morning, and then they would leave. Well, I would follow them. So I'd walk 10, 15 miles down there chasing these stupid things, and it would get hot. I mean, it's different kind of country. It's not mountainous. It's hilly, but it's like real steep little.
It's like prairies and then
dips.
Yeah, huge ditches.
And so anyhow, he comes with me, and we get into these elk that morning, and we're like close. It's just the same thing that always happens. And then they start leaving, and we start going up this drainage. And you guys know, that I don't carry much water as it is. Usually like a 20-ounce bottle of water, and that's it. That's all I carry for the whole day.
Yeah. So surely not good for you, but
right, it's not. But anyhow, it's never not a problem.
I have like a gallon
until the dude with you doesn't have any. And now here we are.
He didn't bring any water.
He didn't bring any water. And so now we're rationing 20 ounces of water. It's going in like 97 degrees. We're 12 miles from the truck. And I'm like, now we're out. And I'm like, okay, dude, we have to go. I mean, this is not like I've started to get thirsty, and I'm like, okay, this is going to become a problem. And so we start booking to the truck. We walk up on a raghorn bull feeding at like 75, 80 yards. We don't even attempt to try to get a shot out. That's how thirsty we were. It was like, no, just keep going. And so
how do you not bring water?
He forgot it because when we got out of the truck, like I said, these elk would come down every night, and I'd hear them from my camper. And then when we walked down there, well, he just got so excited because he could hear these bulls bugling when we got out of the truck that he just didn't grab it. And so he didn't have anything. And I wasn't thinking about it or anything like that. You know, that I didn't ask him, hey, you got water and snacks and stuff like that? And then when we got a drink is when he said, yeah, I don't have anything. And I was like, well, here, you can have a sip of mine. And then the only other thing you can do down there is possibly drink water. And I've done that, but I didn't want to do it that day, I guess. But drink water out of a tank. And it's nasty because cows are drinking out of it. And
you get so many parasites.
Oh, yeah, you're probably going to get sick.
You couldn't get it out. Was there no pipe that was coming out of?
No.
You drank out of the tank?
Oh, yeah, I drank right out of the tank.
Did you get brains out?
Oh, yeah. And I've had that happen 2 or 3 times. Beartooth was another one.
Maybe we should carry more than 20 ounces of water.
Well, I do.
Yeah,
or
what?
That was before I had my filter. Once I got the filter, then I never had any more issues.
No, he will. I've seen before, like we'll even get back to a cabin before. And he'll have, like, drink that much, and then he won't even fill that part up. Like, I'd be having that thing to the rim. Yeah, he's like, oh, I'm good.
It's just, I don't know, I never want, and I don't eat when I'm elk hunting. I mean, a typical elk season for me, I'd lose 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah, that's wild.
You know, so.
I like to have my little bladder when I go on that stuff. You guys always talk crap about it. I never had an issue with it, and I always had water. I was fine with it.
That Primo's elk hunt, that's probably one of the only ones I've gained weight.
No crap, we ate so good on that.
But
that one.
Hold on,
I don't even like talking about that.
But the worst whitetail hunt.
That year though, real quick with Dakin and you and Dakin that year there, I lost. Dakin lost.
Oh, he lost
40
over,
pounds.
I was gonna say over 20. I know that.
Oh, it was way more than that because he was like 260, 280, and he was 220 by the end of it. And then I was 180, so I'd lost like 30-some pounds. That was the last time I was under 200 pounds. And I knew I was, which we hadn't looked in a mirror for a month. And it was the first time I put jeans on in a month.
Thought you had someone else's
jeans?
And
I had all this room, and I remember thinking, what the hell? And then I got home, and Alyssa's eyes were like,
yeah.
And I was like, what? And she's like, what happened?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it just, you do, but those aren't the worst. I mean, that story I'm telling you was the worst just because of what physically happened, you know, and things like that. But, you know, there's other things that go wrong. I mean, I've seen days when fog roll in and you can't find, like I had to sit in the Beartooth one time for 6 hours and had no idea that Jamie Jackson, another firefighter, was sitting about 200 yards from me. doing the same thing. Both of us were just sitting there because you didn't dare move. The fog rolled in and you couldn't see nothing.
Yeah.
You didn't know which way to go. This is before GPSs and all that stuff. So only thing you had was a compass, which would help me. But when you can't even reference anything, like, and to give you an idea how thick it was, I thought I saw a lion, not a like mountain lion, like a maned lion, because I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, what the frick is that? And come to find out, I get 40 yards from it and I realize it's a frickin' bull elk laying on the ground in the open meadow facing me. And I'm like, oh, shit, how does he not see me? And the fog rolled in and I couldn't see him anymore at all. So, I'm like, this is game over as soon as fog rolls back in, because it started to lift a little and I could see him again. I was like, when it does that again, I'm going to knock an arrow. I'm going to walk right up there. And when it lifts, I'm going to shoot him. Well, I got to like 42, 43 yards, a little further than what I dared to shoot. And it didn't come back. Just now it starts to dissipate and I'm stuck in this wide open field right in front of this bull. He's just looking at me. But it was crazy. So you have weird
Maybe we'll have to do a part 2 because we go into mine too when we went 5 miles.
That's why I thought that you were going to talk about that.
For whatever reason, that's kind of a fond memory.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is sometimes, but no, I mean, some of the worst things can teach you the best lessons, or they make you see things differently, or what you're capable of doing. And
oh, yeah. Yeah, that one.
I was really challenged on my elk hunt.
Yeah, yours was rough. The biggest thing with that one is I've never been so close to punching an 80-year-old dude my entire life. Oh, my God, that made me so mad.
The guy that tried to run you off public ground.
Yeah. So here we went 6 miles. So I will give you guys the summary story because we're running out of time, but we can do a part 2 to this series or something. But anyways, we were not equipped to do this, and we'd go about 5 to 6 miles to get back into this piece of property. We get into this piece of property, which is public. So obviously I made sure that it was public before we went that far. And we get back there, got all of our stuff drenched, had to start a fire the next day to get our stuff warmed up and everything. I go through, we start going, but there'd been a pile of elk that were going over there every day. So we start hunting after we dried all of our stuff out, and we make it for an hour and a half, almost kill a bull. And then something weird happened, and we're like, that was weird. And I remember just thinking it was so weird because he was on a line and then the wind was right for us and everything else. And then all of a sudden he just shut up. It didn't make any sense. Well, we get another 300-400 yards down this canyon, I guess you could call it. And I run in and I see 2 dudes. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, we are so far back because the only other way was 14 miles from another entry point. And so I'm like, how in the frick? And so this guy immediately says, who are you? What are you doing here? I said, I'm doing whatever I want to because it's frickin' public. Who are you? And he's like, I leased this. I said, no, you don't. This is public. And he's like, we've never seen anybody back here. I'm like, probably not. It's a long frickin' way. And then he's like, well, we outfit this. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, we're on public. And he's like, oh, yeah, okay. So I guess in Montana, right, they get leases. The outfitters can lease, and then there's no other outfitters.
Correct. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't mean that a resident or a non-resident can't hunt the public ground. Right. It just means that he's the only outfitter that can be hunting that with bringing clients.
And it was myself and 2 camera guys with these huge cameras. So it's very evident that I'm not outfitting. Right? Yeah. So are you outfitting? I'm like, no, you dipshit. Look, I got a bow and 2 cameras. No, we're not freaking outfitting. And so anyways, we go on and we go out and we make and run into 2 more dudes. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And that guy told me that his dad and somebody else were up there. So there's 6 guys now, not counting us, on like a mile-by-mile section that our crew walked 5-6 miles to get to. They must have had access from the other side because there's no way these guys were in good enough shape to do this, right? Well, there's about 100 elk out in this meadow. You've seen the footage, Nick, of that, like just an absolute frenzy. These elk are losing their mind. And we'd managed to run up and sneak up to one pine tree that was like this big. So we've got 3 of us stacked behind this pine tree and 100 and some elk right out in front of us. And I kid you not, this frickin' geezer just starts walking straight across this meadow. So he'd already talked to his son, and then here comes this geezer just walking willy-nilly through the middle of this.
You're there.
Yeah, he saw us, and so then he's walking out there. And Kyle, he's like, just chill. I'm like, no, I'm going to knock this old sucker out. Because here we've worked so hard, and we're not doing anything wrong. This guy's trying to tell us, and he comes, what are you doing? And I said, all right, go talk to your freaking kid, dude. Like, what is your deal? And he's like, well, I leased this. And I was like, oh, my God, we got to go through this again?
Same dude, isn't it?
No, it's his dad.
Oh.
Who's like 80 at this time, And somehow these elk were going so berserk that they didn't pay any attention. And so we have this very heated conversation, and then he decides that it's best for him to leave. And he does. So he leaves, and now we're focused on the elk again. And looking back now in hindsight, I think I even had a decoy with me. We should have just put the decoy on my bow. We had one of those that straps onto my bow. And I think I could have walked right into the middle of these elk. Because it was just absolute anarchy. There was a whole bunch of cows in heat. And they were calling in other elk. And there were just 3-4 fights going on all at the same time. And so it was just a matter of time, right? Well, then they started moving away, and we checked the weather because we didn't have much service, and it was supposed to be good. So then after we realized, okay, we have to deal with 6 other guys on a mile-by-mile piece, I was like, all right, we're not going to do this again because it was already dangerous in the first place, and so we'll go home tonight. And I told those guys, if those elk don't, if they start moving into a place where we can't do anything with them, we're not going to try to go make this huge loop back to our camp because we could just go right through the elk pretty much and get to the camp.
Yeah.
Right. And so I told Kyle and Bryce, I said, all right, if these elk do that, then we're just going there because there's nothing we can do with them anyways. And so we do. And so we end up busting about 120 some elk because we just walk out there. Right. And they're like, Warren. And I'm like, what? And they were like to my right, and they're like, and I look over to my left, and here's the other 2 guys. And they didn't, I don't know what Kyle and Brian, I was just like, hey guys, because I was pretty pissed over there, and I was like, have a good day. And we just kept going. So, and then there was more to that story, but we don't have time for that.
Yeah, but you guys were that story. The more to the story is the fact that they're still alive to talk about, because the part that he was alluding to, that the reason they had to leave with the weather was it had already been bad weather, and then more bad weather was coming. And thank God for AA batteries and mics and headlights from a mile away, a mile and a half away. I'd say I was a mile. That's a mile to the top of that hill.
Yep, at least.
So. All right, you got a wacky fact for us today. I thought we had a wacky fact. Remember yesterday when we were driving? I was like, this is a good wacky fact. What was that?
I remember you saying something, but now I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't know.
Oh, I remember what it was.
What is it?
It had to do with no, I'm not going to say it.
Why?
Because part of it is not wacky. Part of it is known.
So you're scared you're going to get an X?
Yeah, I don't want to.
Yeah, little pansy. All right, Warren. No preparation whatsoever.
Okay, I'll do it. I don't care whether there's next, but I'm tired of waiting on him. Okay, so most of you probably know this. This is common knowledge that you cannot sneeze and keep your eyes open. Can't do it. You can try. Go home, try to hold your eyeballs open.
It's about as commonly known as you can't lick your elbow.
Okay, but did you know that you also can't be peeing and sneeze and keep peeing? You will stop. 100%. There is no way that you're. Oh, come on.
I'm pretty sure like 2 years ago when we started this podcast, I discussed how bad it sucks to sneeze and pee.
No
because
way.
half the time it just goes flying.
No one's ever.
Who knows where that's going to end up?
Achoo! All right, I got a good one.
All right.
In 2021, Italian artist Salvatore Garrett sold an invisible sculpture for £13,000, providing the buyer with a certificate of authenticity to confirm its existence.
That pisses me off.
That doesn't mean it ain't wacky.
That is such BS.
It's a fact. Have
I'm
you
not
not
giving you a
seen the
green.
art that they do where they just...
Yeah, it's like they poop on a piece of paper and it's worth $10,000.
This one was kind of cool, too. In May 2011, 2 Nepali adventurers paraglided from Mount Everest summit, reaching Namche Bazaar in 42 minutes, thus avoiding the standard 3-day descent.
That's freaking cool. I feel like that'd be really
You would
bad
think
on your
everybody would
infrastructure.
start doing that.
Yeah.
On what?
Like your body.
Yeah.
Descending at that elevation?
Yeah, I would think that not everyone ain't doing that because they can't handle that physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know my fat ass would do much better paragliding down than trying to hike down that thing.
I think they should use one of those squirrel things.
Maybe they should
That
just
would
get a
be-
sled.
Squirrel
Yeah,
gliding
squirrel
things.
suit.
Yeah.
That was a bad experience.
I wanna
for,
do that.
Jacob and I's buddy.
Squirrel? He did that?
No, the sledding. So you could sled down it.
Down
So-
what? What are you talking about?
If you got to top of Everest, just hop on a sled, go down. Alex Thomas. I don't know why this made me think of this. Do you remember where Jacob lived?
Yeah.
So outside of Great Falls, there's some kind of like bluffs, okay?
Yeah.
And they're pretty, some of them
Steep.
are pretty steep. There's a lot of rocks. Well, we had like 2 inches of snow, like not that much snow. And Alex he was a bit of maybe a rebel child would be the way to put it. And it was pretty steep. And he's like, I would sled down that. Jacob and I were like, no, you wouldn't. And he's like, oh, yeah, you want to bet? And we were like, yeah, that'd be stupid. You're definitely not going to do it. And he's like, yeah, I will. And so he walks up this. I'm talking like it's like that much snow. And he's got one of those really slick plastic sleds and goes down it, hits a rock, and launches like 5 feet in the air and lands on another rock.
Oh.
And is just screaming in terror, holding his ass, and just runs to his house. And Jacob and I are dying. We are just dying because he just goes, boom, boom, and we're like, what the frick? Well, it turns out he legit broke his tailbone, broke his ass.
Oh. That could be you tomorrow if you want to go snowboarding.
Yeah, no, I'm good. It was pretty funny.
All right.
we're
This
out.
is the Raised Hunting Crew signing off, guys. Hopefully your trips are not as miserable as ours. We have some good ones, too. We're getting ready to have another really good one. I'm headed on a Aoudad hunt on Sunday. Oh, I'll just be getting back from the Aoudad hunt. Sorry. All right. This is the Raised Hunting Crew signing off. See you next week. Sorry, Nick.